2019 was a great year for Clash Royale Esports. We crowned 2 different Western champions, and of course, the West took home the World Championship, and 2020 looks like it could be even bigger, even better. Hello and welcome back. I'm Rich Slayton. Joining me, as always, is Andrew Guy for this Clash Royale League 2020 kickoff. It's finally here. I'm so excited. Andrew, I know you're excited to be here too.
I am freaking out, man. I'm so excited to be here. I needed this. I really needed this. I've been stuck in my apartment for months. I needed this, and YouTube has been a big part of keeping me sane. And speaking of YouTube, let's talk about our YouTube, guys. That's probably where you're watching us right now. Make sure you're subscribed and turn on the notifications. Ring that bell, as they say. That way, you know every single time one of our matches goes live. It's 10 a.m. on the West, 1 p.m. on the East, but maybe you're sleeping in. Maybe your phone needs to ding to get you out of bed. That's the best way to do it. The other best way to follow along with everything we do is on Twitter. Follow us at Esports Royale EN to follow along with everything in English. I've been following for years. I'm sure you have as well. And it's the best place to find all the up-to-date Clash Royale news, especially on the competitive side. And speaking of competitive Clash Royale, let's make some money, or gems. It's the same thing, right? I mean, I know it is for me. 1,000 gems on the line for Fantasy Royale. Is your lineup set? It better be. Which 4 players do you think are going to take the most crowns at the end of the season? You can trade in the middle of the week. You can even drop people in the middle of the week, but you got to have your lineup. Rich, you ready, bro?
Yeah, I'm absolutely ready. And you're talking about making picks for your lineups. That's one big difference for this season was instead of being one big pool of 10 teams, we have two groups that were picked by our defending world champion Team Liquid and the other group picked by our defending Western champion SK Gaming. As the world champs, Team Liquid had pick number 1 and they chose to put the newly revamped Dignitas lineup in Group A. With their second pick, they chose Cream Real Betis with that new green and white jersey. Third pick for Team Liquid, and a pretty solid one here, Chivas Esports making their debut into CRL, and then finally the power pick, the huge roster of Tribe Gaming, the last group that Team Liquid chose to face off in Group A. On the other side, the defending Western champions, SK Gaming, had the second overall pick, and they chose to get the Brazilian squad of Pain Gaming into their pool. Next up, they went with the all-American lineup of Misfits. And then here comes the worst kept secret in CRL. They picked Space Station Gaming to join Group B. And finally, this wasn't a pick anymore. It was the last team left. They got stuck with the No Tilt League Special Edition champions, Team KOTH, rounding out Group B, a very powerful group here. And it's going to be very interesting for this season.
Yeah, so Group A and Group B are going to be in their own respective groups for this format. We got a regular season round robin, which means each team in their respective group will play each other one time for a total of 4 matches in the regular season. What that means is that the top 3 teams from each squad are going to move on to our playoffs. So this is what we got, guys. This is real. You're seeing it correctly. We got BO3. We're going back to the 2018 format of putting King of the Hill last, but look at that in week 6 and 7. You guys have been talking about it for years, and now we have it for all of playoffs. You get a BO5. That's a 2v2, then 3 1v1s, and then King of the Hill. Obviously, the last 2 sets, the 4th and 5th set, are only played if necessary, but I'm so excited to have this format. I'm sure you guys are too. Rich, are you happy, man?
I mean, it's going to be so great to see that full best of 5, but it's a long road to get there, and it all starts here this weekend. Coming up this Saturday, right now, Team Liquid versus Cream Real Betis to kick things off in a few minutes, followed by the defending Western champions of SK Gaming up against Misfits with their brand new look. Then come back tomorrow, 10 a.m. in the West, 1 p.m. in the East, 7 p.m. Central European. Summertime, Tribe Gaming trawls out their big-time roster up against Chivas Esports, and then rounding out the weekend, the cheesy ones, Team KOTH, will go head-to-head with Space Station Gaming. 4 matches every single weekend, 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday, and this week we have an amazing slate to kick things off. I am super excited. Andrew, I'm looking at these matches, and I don't know if I can pick a favorite one to watch yet.
It's impossible, especially because they only get 4 matches, man. The pressure is exponentially higher. Every single match you come out, you got to give it your absolute best, and if you stumble a little bit, you don't have weeks and weeks to reset. You get 1, maybe. I mean, with only 4 matches, maybe a 1-3 team makes it, but I don't know. But I do know that set differential, game differential, crown differential is going to come into play. So yeah, you might stumble. You can't expect anyone to go perfect 4-0, but you must readjust immediately, man.
I mean, that makes the whole thing feel like kind of a playoff format, right? With every single match meaning so much as opposed to a 10 or 11 match season where, I mean, last season with Energy, we saw them drop, I think, 4 or 5 in a row and then recover and make it into playoffs. We're not going to see that this time around.
Yeah, you know, there's just no way to do it. And like I said, you know, that differential is really going to come into play. Even with 10 matches being played, 12 matches being played, we always see teams tied with the same record, and that always comes into play. So 3 crowns, you're going to look for them in 2v2, 2 crowns whenever you can in 1v1. But that's enough of speculation. Let's get into our first match.
Oh, it's going to be Team Liquid facing off against Cream Real Betis, the defending world champions, going with the same roster from last year. We'll see that in a moment against Cream Real Betis, which has completely retooled their roster. Of course, a new partnership with the soccer club Real Betis, and I'm excited to see what these guys can bring out, Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, Team Liquid, do I even need to introduce them anymore? But one thing is for sure, I hope to see Igor make his regular season debut. We saw what he could do in playoffs. Let's see what he can do here in the regular season. Everyone else, they are veterans, they are superstars. Diego B, Canario, and of course, Surgical Goblin, the most celebrated player in the game.
On the other side of it, while it was Team Liquid's second pick overall, so meaning kind of lower in the power rankings, Cream Real Betis, they do have a roster people look at as a potential spoiler roster for this season. St. Bellican, defending European champion, coming back to CRL finally. Diego E has been excellent during this offseason, making his way back into CRL. But of course, the addition of X Pedro, one of the best head-to-head players out there, finally here in the West. And people forget that Irai was the 1v1 leader in the fall split, going 8-1. This is a team that could turn heads in this short season. This is a team that could put on some pretty big upsets, Andrew.
With the amount of power they have in head-to-head play, that 2v2 is where the question mark lies. So let's see what happens here. And kind of a surprise, you just said it, Uri, here with Diego E, he has an 89% win rate in 1v1 as of last season. Canario and Diego B, not a huge surprise. The ban's a little bit interesting, Rich. You know, Tornado did get a bit of a nerf, but we're still seeing that a lot in 2v2. But the Mega Knight, very interesting there. I like the ban.
Yeah, Mega Knight, maybe we're looking at some swarmy stuff, maybe Piggy's coming out for Canario and Diego B. No shock here, seeing Canario in the 2v2, of course, third overall in career win rate in 2v2, fifth overall in 2v2 wins. But as you said, Yarai being in 1 and 2v2, a bit surprising, especially when he has St. Bellican on his team, who has, I think, the number 3 overall win rate in the history of Clash Royale League in 2v2.
Oh, and I'm happy to see Rai in a new place. I think it's really, really important. If you want to progress in this league, you need to be able to readjust and find a new position. Many pros do it before. Now it's Yarai's turn. Here we go. Yarai, Diego E, Cream Real Betis, top of the screen, bottom of the screen, Canario, and Diego B for Liquid in our very first game of the 2020 season. Let's go.
I am so pumped, Andrew, and you can see already going with an interesting kind of change here. We've seen a lot of the Giant Skeleton, Lumberjack, Hog Rider in the past. A slight variation on that same theme here from the Team Liquid 2v2 duo, throwing in the Ram Rider instead of the Hog Rider.
Yeah, you know, and I'm a little bit surprised to not see Giant Skeleton banned in 2v2 by at least one of the squads. He's just so powerful. That Death Bomb does so much cleanup. We'll see if that's something that starts to happen a lot more, if it's something that might be falling out of fashion here in competitive play.
Well, we are seeing a bunch of Giant Skeleton, but remember, we are not seeing Tornado. Tornado's banned, and while Giant Skeleton's still effective in a lot of those bridge battles, you take the Tornado out of play, and it does lower that efficacy just a bit. So, you know, this is going to be the question of where those bans go, and we're used to Giant Skeleton NATO. Here, Mega Knight off the board, NATO off the board. They'll see how the GS runs rampant.
Yeah, really, really nice even trade there on the right-hand side with the Skeletons plus the Healing Spirit to take out the Wall Breakers. However, what I'm thinking needs to happen here for Liquid is they've got to get that Giant Skeleton in front of their Ram Rider. That'll probably start to happen once they hit double elixir time. But right now, pretty even. Diego E and Yarai off to a good start. That minor chip damage, always frustrating to keep up with in 2v2.
Here we go, final minute of regulation play approaching double elixir time, and it is currently Cream Real Betis in the lead with a bit of chip damage, but now we see Team Liquid setting up Giant Skeleton to the left-hand lane. Same big fella in response from Cream.
And this is a huge, huge 2v2 set for both squads. You know, Liquid changing things up a little bit. We saw how successful Canario and Surge were, but it makes sense to keep Surge and Igor available for 1v1. Yarai moving into 2v2 with Diego, taking a set off Liquid would be massive for confidence moving forward.
It would certainly be important. There you go, Log Snowball getting things back and some good value from the Log, getting the Dark Goblin off the board. Still, the pressure is being kept on by Cream Real Betis, and notice again, no Tornadoes, a lot more variation in minor placement available early on in this game.
Yeah, you know, and the thing that Liquid adjusted to immediately was recognizing, okay, we can't activate King Tower, so what can we do? Let's hold on to our Electro Wizards to make sure we can reset that minor and keep all the damage off of our tower. Everything at bay, they're at 1542 and have been for quite some time.
Little cheeky heal spirit there, coming out from, I believe, Canario, getting that Giant Skeleton just a little bit more across the bridge, not quite able to make a run for it, and the bomb tower does not get hit due to that log, so a nice healthy bomb tower setting up on defense, and a decent bit of elixir, although slightly behind as we go into sudden death overtime.
And an Ewiz had to come out of the top left-hand side of your screen there to protect Cream from that Giant Skeleton getting closer to their tower, but that made it so that their Electro was just died right inside of the Giant Skeleton, so it was a sacrifice for elixir, a necessary sacrifice, but I'm wondering if Liquid can take advantage of that at all.
Poison does finally take the Musketeer off the board. Miner picked up for a second by those Skellies, and here we are, down to about under 1,000 HP on the left-hand side with that last Miner swing. And so far, it has been all Cream Real Betis. No real offense mounted.
Rich,
although
this
Ram Rider...
about. Wow, beautiful use of spells and towers to keep that Ram Rider away. It really looked like she was going to get through and connect, at least with one charge, but a beautiful defense there by Cream Real Betis.
And here we are, triple elixir. That Heal Spirit doing a lot. Ram Rider almost escapes there, but a nice snowball keeps it off the
connection.
board.
775, top of your screen. Poison is down. Miner Poison having trouble keeping up now with the pressure being turned up by Liquid. Those Ram Riders are coming out. They're alternating one at a time. Giant Skeletons being played up high.
Big fireball makes a little bit more room for that. Miner gets down to 301 left-hand side, 490 left-hand side for Cream Real Betis. 2 Ram Riders in at once. Second bomb tower down. Can Cream hold on to this lead? Poison down,
Liquid's
too far away.
A beautiful reset by the Miner. Or on the Miner. Poison taking.
Log.
Where's the log? Oh my gosh!
What a way to kick off the 2020 season. 45 HP on the finish. What more could you ask for, Andrew? Cream Real Betis taking game number 1 by a hair off of Team Liquid.
I know exactly what to ask for if I'm Liquid. I need rocket boosters on that baby dragon. He was just sitting there. Just needed one more belch. That's all Liquid needed. Cream does not give up. They stay relentless with the Miners. The Earthquake coming in for Liquid, just not enough. And man, what a way to start our day. What a way to start our season.
Wow. Just let's start it off early. That's a huge wow from me on this one. Diego E and Yerai, you could see the almost the panic there starting to fall apart a little bit as you talked about. The later that game went on, the pressure kicking up, the pressure getting heavier and heavier, but able to hold on and just get enough with that spell damage to take that tower down. That's got to be that's a huge win here for Cream.
I couldn't agree more. Let's take a look at some action from that last game here to see how Cream ends up stealing the win with some beautiful defense. The double Ram Rider coming in, the bomb tower adding in just a bit of support. There's the Baby Dragon. Look at the snowball. Baby Dragon resets and not able to retarget the tower. That's what I'm talking about. So maybe rocket boosters, but it was a beautiful, beautiful snowball by Cream Real Betis. And what a huge win, dude. What does this mean? What does this mean?
Well, it gets very, very interesting, right? Because now Team Liquid has to win 2 in a row to take the 2v2 set.
Yeah.
And this is the place where you feel like Team Liquid thought they had everything locked down. They have to feel like 2v2 should be a place where they're going to win in almost every single match, and then they can still go win in the head-to-head matches. But if they lose the 2v2, we have to expect that X Pedro is the head-to-head as the 1v1 set player for Cream Real Betis. And if that's the case, there are no guarantees of winning in that best-of-3 set. X Pedro could put the hurt on anybody. So this is a big second game here for Team Liquid. Got to wonder what they come out with. The Ram Rider, Giant Skeleton, Lumberjack combination just didn't get it done for them this time.
And I honestly, I feel the exact same way about this 2v2 set, but I feel it for both squads. I think that if Cream wants to take this match, they need this 2v2 set because of the 1v1 and head-to-head power in Liquid's roster. I mean, you and I were talking about it before the match. Canario is one of the most, I think he is the highest win rate or one of the highest win rates in 1v1, period, and he's not even playing it. So the idea that that guy can pop in King of the Hill and turn things around means that if I'm Cream, I need this to be closed out in 2 sets.
Yeah, I mean, that you do not want to go into King of the Hill against this Team Liquid roster that has so much experience there. Of course, there's some hard hitters, no questions asked, on the Cream Real Betis roster. But if we go to King of the Hill, I think that we start getting to a point where it's a 70-30 over towards Team Liquid. But if we don't get there, obviously that's the best news for Cream Real Betis. So let's go ahead and jump in to game number 2 of our opening set. Currently, Cream Real Betis up 1. Can they close things out here?
Yeah, we'll find out. Heal Spirit to start things out. Heal Spirit, obviously one of the best reworks that we've ever seen in Clash Royale. I love the Heal Spirit. I think it has such a great place, competitive and ladder, just in anything, period. So really, really excited to see Heal Spirit being used here.
Yeah, it's interesting to see it get moved into 2v2, but you understand why with all the bridge battles and so much stuff happening right there, so many troops to heal up. That Heal Spirit for 1 elixir can give you so much extra value in these big bridge fights.
Yeah, and you saw, last match, a great use of Heal Spirit to kind of equalize negative elixir trades.
Delivery comes in, but doesn't quite do enough, so Snowball has to help as well. Holding on here in the opening moments, but death damage does get on. First minute away, Team Liquid out to a pretty significant lead for just so little gameplay.
I was going to say, we're probably going to see Graveyard here when you see those cards, Giant Skeleton, Baby Dragon, Dark Prince, Musketeer. You got to imagine Graveyard is going to be coming out in 2v2 here. Not a lot of damage done. Really, really nice use of defense there, but Liquid ahead just a little bit in Elixir, and that's what the dangerous thing of using Graveyard in single is.
As we pass the midway point of regulation time, it's a couple hundred HP separating these two squads. Cream Real Betis playing with the cushion at the moment, has to feel good, and just a little pressure push here. Miner and Skelly's at the bridge. Fascinating, and they do force out the Ewiz.
Yeah, it's a beautiful push. It's an even trade there for Cream, but they are losing, a utility unit that they could use down the road to support either these bridge battles or maybe even a Graveyard down the road. But that was a great, great cheap push from Liquid, and this is what I think we're going to see so much of, Rich, is a ton of Giant Skeleton battles if it's not banned.
And a nice fireball zap there trying to clear the way. Does get the Muskie off the board, but no damage from the balloon as we enter the final minute of regulation. Double Elixir time on. Graveyard in, Skelly's and Bomb Tower playing defense as the Musketeer is temporarily distracted.
Yeah, it's a really, really nice, clean defense there. An even trade again, Graveyard's 5 and Bomb Tower plus Skelly's is 5, so nice there. And you also get a good counter push here from the Royal Delivery and the Musketeer at the river.
Defensive freeze at the bridge, buying some time. Really fascinating choice right now from Cream. Looks like it might be working out though.
Yeah, defensive freeze plus the Royal Delivery, able to get a little bit of damage in, kind of stop everything there, and then a high Bomb Tower. Worst case scenario is your Bomb Tower goes down, and you also get death damage from the bomb. So really, really nice interactions here from Cream all the way across the board, and with one game in hand, they are a little bit behind, but they got to be feeling pretty good about themselves.
Graveyard this time getting some decent damage. Snowball trying to make some room. Freeze comes in.
Down to 11:42, top of the screen, Miner chipping away, Mega Minion on top of it, but all of a sudden you see here Cream in a great spot, and we're still in a single tower game, so Graveyard does have the advantage.
We saw this 2v2 combination, the Giants of the Graveyard and Skeleton Barrel in the past, never really worked out to the level that you think the players wanted it to, that they expected it to, but so far, as we're getting deeper into this sudden death overtime period, it feels like it's starting to put on the right kind of pressure for this Cream duo.
Well, it's so hard to orchestrate the timing correctly to get the maximum effectiveness out of all those cards, right? You want the Giant Skeleton Bomb to go off. You want the spell bait to either take the Skeleton Barrel or the Graveyard Skeletons, but not both. And so when you layer that perfectly, it becomes almost a near impossible offense to stop.
Really nothing for that Miner on the top-hand side. That's why you see it on the 392. Mega Minion was not enough to defend. So now a delivery going to come out. Giant Skeleton low. Have to stop this one balloon here and then pick up the next Miner. They go with the
That's a rough freeze to have to drop. And then Ewiz comes down, misses the Miner. Freeze comes in, but you see a retarget, fireball zap, Team Liquid evening things up. And honestly, in that game, it felt like it was a little bit of misplays from Cream here and there that allowed left that door open for Team Liquid.
Yeah, really solid defense on the Liquid side as well. Very, very cheap, efficient defense on the Graveyard. And not getting caught by the freezes. And you saw that cheeky move at the end, trying to get it done, but the Snowball with the King Tower activation, too little, too late. Fireball zap, GG, well played. Here we go, taking a look at our stats, courtesy of Stats Royale, and the pressure was kept on by Canario and Diego B. It felt like and Diego E fell behind a bit and just didn't seem like they could recover once that happened.
Yeah, Canario, I'm shocked that it was just one Miner, and obviously we could see that during the game, but it was his ability to cycle back around to it so many times. That Miner, when they were playing defense, or it looked like they were selling out on defense, you would look up and all of a sudden you'd see that Miner just sitting there chipping away on the tower, and I think that was a huge part of why they took game 2, is Canario's Miners were having, even at the very end of the game, when you had to pick up those Miners, you saw them dropping Electro Wizards early, Uri and Diego E, and not picking up the Miner, so great job there by Canario and switching things up and keeping his opponents guessing.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about the ways to pick up the Miner. They only have 4 Elixir troops to pick up the Miner, nothing that's an even pickup, and got them behind a little bit, and we saw the way they baited out that Ewiz early. Here we go, taking a look at some of the action from this one, Andrew, and it was an exciting game.
Yeah, you know, some really, really nice defense here played by Cream, but unfortunately, when you have to continue to use your freeze on defense, your graveyard becomes that much less effective. And you saw when they were able to get the perfect push in with the tank, the graveyard coming in after it was tanked, and then the late freeze, that's when they took the huge chunk of damage out of Liquid's tower. But otherwise, they kept having to use freeze defensively, and that really, really cripples you as a graveyard deck, or with a graveyard deck, excuse me.
Yeah, we saw that over and over again. And while, of course, a defensive freeze can on occasion be valuable, even the first one might have been the right idea in that call. As you said, once that starts to stack up, you start to lose your ability to actually create the damage that you want on the other side. And that was the death knell, it felt like, for Uri and Diego E. So here we are going to game number 3 in just a moment. And this is a big one for Cream. You know, we were talking about it a minute ago. It feels like a lot more rides on this 2v2 set for Cream than it does for Team Liquid. If they win here, they give Pedro a pretty good shot, but if they lose here, they have to beat Team Liquid in both 1v1 and King of the Hill, and that feels like a task that might be just a little bit too hard for many teams to try to pull off.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this is one of the most stacked rosters in all of CRL East or West, so here we go, Game 3. This is huge.
Let's jump on into our third and final game of 2v2. And you got to wonder about that momentum, seeing maybe some of the frustration come out for Diego E and Uri. And here, going a little bit faster this time around rather than that big graveyard construction they went with in the last game.
Yeah, an early graveyard. Speaking of graveyard, an early graveyard out here for Team Liquid. Dark Prince and Baby Dragon crossing the river, but neither tanking for these skeletons. So not a lot out of it. A little bit of splash damage from the Baby Dragons. So, you know, there's the silver lining, but a big push going to be coming down the lane. And a great high giant skeleton here to catch these units. Should clean everything up except the Musketeers. Yep.
Raged up Muskie, though, will do a decent job of holding the line high, and she might get a couple shots on tower. No, Skellies do come out, but with that rage, still able to do it. And now the pressure on here from Cream Real Betis, knowing that Team Liquid is way low on Elixir. Balloon in. I don't know if this will... No, Bomb Tower does get back out.
Yeah, I like... Oh, but the freeze comes in. I was going to say, I like the idea, but I felt like it was a little too aggressive. However, that freeze pays dividends, and that's what we're talking about when you're going to play your freeze. The thing that I wanted to say, Rich, about the replay in the last match is that when you surprise the casters and surprise your opponents with a freeze defensively, it's usually not the best case scenario, right? Like, the best case scenario is to surprise them offensively, like we saw right there. And now Liquid down below 800 HP before we even get to double elixir time.
Miner on, this time picked up by the Dark Prince. 20 seconds, 15 seconds away now from double elixir time, and here we go. Team Liquid pushing the opposite direction. Graveyard down, Giant Skeleton tanking nicely. But a Dark Goblin in the back going to do a decent job with the Lumberjack of mitigating most of that damage, Andrew.
And the Heal Spirit does connect with the Giant Skeleton, but the bomb of the opponent Giant Skeleton not allowing it to get any closer. Now we got a Goblin Brawler heading down the lane towards Liquid, who are in a rough spot right now.
Decent amount of troops on the board, but still behind an Elixir. Battle Healer high, and now just trying to force maybe some bad decisions out from... And here we go. The Graveyard Freeze does come in. Snowball trying to clear off the bats. This could be some significant damage there, Andrew.
The healer is still alive. The OP battle healer stays alive, throws a little bit of healing in there, and she gets a couple swings in and supports those skeletons. So now both squads in a very interesting position. It looks a precarious situation, if you will. Okay, yeah, so we're in spell cycle range now. It's going to be a 2-tower game, and we know that 2-tower games become much more difficult for graveyard win conditions.
This will be interesting. They decide not to put really any significant defense, just force a little more elixir out on the left-hand side. Cream going to go ahead and fireball that left-hand tower. They better do it quickly.
There it is. Lands
you see them
just
going to
in
the
time.
Inside corner. Yep, just to make sure it goes a little bit faster.
Yeah, great note there, Rich. If you are in a struggle, guys, and you're in your match, and you really want to win it, and you've only got a couple seconds left, go high and inside on your spells. They get there quicker.
More quickly? See, they already had some on that side, Andrew. Be going for the 3-crown push. We'll see if that comes back to bite them, but it looks like it's going to be Cream's plan to go after the King Tower rather than after the Princess Tower.
Never a big fan of going after the King Tower in these situations, especially when your opponent have, I don't know. I could be wrong, but I'm never a big fan of going after the King Tower.
Freeze in the back. Giant Skeleton still tanking for the moment. Snowballing, trying to make some more room. Team Liquid getting some decent damage, but not that much, and spent quite a bit. And here we go. Giant Skeleton, Bats, and the balloon going opposite direction. Miner in, but it's not going to get that balloon anywhere near the tower with the help of that bomb tower, although Arrow's trying to make a little bit more room, although he might get death damage here.
That was so close to a drop. Liquid played that. Wow. Got by the skin of their teeth.
Keeping the pressure on right now is Cream Real Betis. Bomb tower not in cycle at the moment, so seeing if they can sneak one on here. Everything trying to block this balloon, but it's raged up. Barely gets stopped by the bomb tower.
Second balloon down behind that Giant Skeleton. Now a defensive freeze comes out for Team Liquid, stopping that in its tracks, and now you see them go back on offense. There we
Giant
go.
Skeleton in the pocket, Goblin Cage to pick it up, the Battle Healer behind. The Battle Healer Giant Skeleton combination could prove to be a lot of trouble here.
Wow, cleaned up very, very nicely there by Cream, and back on the offense. A naked Graveyard, maybe going to drop a freeze. There's the freeze, just trying to bait anything out. Cream on the tower, that's going to do it, Rich.
Musketeer in the pocket, does go down though, and that's going to be it. Cream Real Betis gonna close it out in 2v2 and take a huge opening set win from Team Liquid.
What a way to start your season. I mean, you start at the bottom of the power rankings being picked third. That puts you in 8th place. Your first match is against the reigning world champions in Team Liquid. And what do? You come out there and you take that 2v2 set, which is exactly what CRB had to do to take this match off Liquid. Liquid gonna have to readjust here as we move into the next set.
This is gonna be huge. We'll see who Team Liquid pulls out for the 1v1, but right now take a look at our stats view from that 2v2, and while it was a lot more spell work out of Canario and Diego B, remember most of that was from the freezes as opposed to high damage spells, and in the end it was the spell cycle getting a little bit better of them, not to mention the minor work. Very, very nice play by Rai and Diego E, and one thing we were noting during the game, Andrew, was the pacing at which they were cycling those balloons. When they were getting balloon number 2 in, you called out a couple of times, they put together a really, really excellent couple of sequences to get this win done.
Yeah, they relied on their opponents using their win condition and then in turn created massive counter pushes. So let's actually take a look at that last game here and some of the best moments. This is the very, very end where you saw Liquid kind of selling out at the top of the screen, trying to get anything they can. And I'm actually shocked that Liquid was able to keep this tower alive for as long as they did. Obviously, not going to be enough health. Fireball comes in and closes things out. Very, very close, but Cream doing, I think, what a lot of people did not expect them to do, which is pull the upset off in 2v2 against Liquid, who is so strong all the way across the board. That's the other thing about this format, Rich. King of the Hill was kind of it was kind of a coin toss sometimes. You could have really good or really bad matchups, but now with 1v1 and 2v2 as the first two sets, you really have to rely on the core of your squad.
Well, I think King of the Hill being set number 2 also benefited Liquid a whole lot, because you get into set number 2, and no matter what you have to do, you have to go through such a monster roster to get to set number 3. This will be interesting. This could change things a bit for Liquid. I mean, they still have phenomenal S-tier 1v1 players in their stable, but you know, you used to have to go through 3 top-tier players to get to set number 3 against Liquid. Now you have to go through just 1. That's a very different story.
That's a really, really strong point you make. And just to remind you guys, in our 1v1 set, it's a BO3. There are no bans. We don't know who's coming out yet. But I have a feeling it's going to be either Surgical Goblin or Igor for Liquid, because they're the only two that can, and they're both so good that you can't really pick one over the other. But I feel like we're going to see xPedro finally in CRL West. You and I have been waiting for seasons. I think today's the day, and I hope his internet is ready to play.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard rumors that the Cream Real Betis has put some effort into getting him. I think they found him the world's best Starbucks or something.
I thought they built a Starbucks in his house.
Yeah, right. Just making sure it's all nice and stable and ready to rock. This is a guy that Team Liquid's coach, Eric Benamou, has many times publicly called the best player out of Latin America. So yeah, we'll see what kind of plan Eric has for the Venezuelan. I mean, look, Eric does know this player very, very well. So there is some of that going on as we get into this 1v1 set, if it is in fact xPedro. Let's go ahead and take a look at the matchup. and it is going to be
Yes,
Igor
dude.
against Pedro. Let's go.
I am so excited. I've never seen these two guys play in the regular season. I've seen it, but I've never got to cast it. I'm so excited. I hope Pedro's Wi-Fi is ready to go. I mean, you talked about Eric and how much he celebrates Pedro. I wonder if the idea that Pedro might not be competing played into the fact that they were the third pick of the entire draft. That's, again, very low on the power rankings.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly is low, and I think you make a good point there. The possibility that Pedro, we saw, of course, during No Tilt League Special Edition that he was sort of in and out in terms of what he was able to compete. But yeah, I think this might be a team that, as you are pointing out there, Andrew, might have been rated too low.
Man, here we go. Igor, bottom of your screen. Pedro at the top. We see Musketeer and Snowball from Igor. You know what I want it to be. Probably won't be Mortar, but you know I want it. Top of your screen, and Goblin Cage coming out.
Yeah, Pedro maybe playing that Royal Giant cycle, and looks like it's going to be. So the fast cycle Royal Giant deck with the Goblin Cage Royal Delivery combination on defense. Very, very hard to play up against, and there are not a lot of bad matchups for it, and I believe this is one of the better ones that this deck can face.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways to kind of keep that Mini P.E.K.K.A at bay, but I do have to say I love the play of the log plus the miner there from Igor. Mini P.E.K.K.A high, gets the skeletons away from surrounding the Royal Giant with the log, and knocks back the Firecracker. Miner goes directly to the Firecracker to just create a little bit more pressure than there would have been if that miner went to the tower.
It's going to be interesting to see how Igor tries to spread this out with the different options that Pedro has defensively. As we get deeper and deeper into this one.
You saw that the pre-log comes out looking for the skeletons. Very, very nice play from Igor, but he actually misses two, only hits one.
And here you have the kite potential of this deck is very, very high. The big question is going to be, how does he do that with both the Mini P.E.K.K.A, the Mega Knight, and still catch miners when necessary?
Yeah, I mean, this is a very, very tough matchup for Igor. As you can see right here, he's got nothing for that Royal Giant. He's got to use his wall breakers for defense, and the Firecracker still gets a hit. So this is a very, very tough start. And this is to lean towards exactly what you're talking about, Rich.
Here we go.
Bad day.
I think I might have lost your audio there for a second. Andrew might have both been speaking. There you go. Log right inside. Back to see all the expenditure that Igor has to do just to get a Firecracker off the board.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very difficult here for Igor to stop these Royal Giant pushes.
So there you have a Snowball, a Mini P.E.K.K.A, and a Mega Knight all working to stop that Royal Giant together. And still a lot on the board for Pedro.
Yeah, and there's just no way for Igor to break through. He's just having a hard time breaking through.
Well, it becomes a question of when do you start switching tactics here, Andrew, right? When do you start focusing on playing defense and trying to do minor chip? But the only problem, and there's a King Tower activation on top of all of it. That just changes absolutely everything. Firecracker demanding so much attention from Igor, and in the end, it feels like it's going to be too much here. I don't know if he can stop this Royal Giant from getting at least 2 shots.
I mean, he gets the log with the Mega Knight there. Yeah, Royal Giant's going to get one. Where's the second shot? There's the second. 491 remains, and again, Igor does not have the push that he wants here. You're going to see this again, the same thing over and over. The high row recruit, the Firecracker in the back, the high Goblin Cage, the bats. It's brutal.
And then, of course, now with that King Tower activated, the miner is even less effective against that Firecracker. So a lot of difficulty here. Heal Spirit does not get in because of the log, so a little life here for Igor with 1:20 left in sudden death.
Pedro doing a nice job supporting his Goblin Brawler there with just a couple skeletons to give it a little bit more legs and make that Mini P.E.K.K.A's life just a little bit more difficult.
And Pedro cycling an EQ here just to get a little bit extra damage.
And I love the surround that Pedro put on the skeletons there for the Firecracker, because he knew that either Igor would have to go to the front and the Firecracker would go backwards, or it would have to go to the back and the skeletons would catch it. So a really great job there to keep his Firecracker alive. Pedro calls good game, and that's exactly what it was if you're a Cream Real Betis fan. Team Liquid in a rough spot right now.
Yeah, in a rough spot in match number 1, facing against match point here. Igor has to get 2 wins over Pedro, which is difficult on any day. And right now, Cream Real Betis 1 win away from putting off a huge upset to open up our 2020 campaign.
Yeah, and it's those minor interactions that I love. Minor, and it did involve the minor, but again, that when he sent it to the firecracker and the surround with the skeletons there that Pedro played, it was the most high IQ surround because there was only one way for that miner to kill the firecracker. And it's small things like that that add up over a few minutes. Now, obviously the matchup here was incredibly in Pedro's favor. I guess we just have to wait and see if that happens again in match 2 or game 2. But let's take a look at a little bit of action from game 1.
Yeah, heading back in just to see the final moments of that last match where things did get closed out here by Pedro. And again, it was just that there was no real good response. Every response to the Royal Giant was either unable to stop a shot or was going to cost way too much and put Igor behind on Elixir. And we saw that over and over again. In the end, the Royal Giant cycle way too much for Igor in this matchup, and Pedro taking game number 1 and putting Cream Real Betis 1 win away from opening up their season with a huge victory.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And the other thing, too, is that the highest direct DPS unit that Liquid had or Igor had was that mini P.E.K.K.A. Excuse me. And it was so easy to keep that mini P.E.K.K.A. at bay with the firecracker, with the skeletons, the goblin cage. It was real rough.
Well, that delivery cage combination on defense is so nasty because not only do you have the pickup and blocking of the cage and the knockback of the delivery, but also both of them generating troops creates an extra level of distraction and DPS on the back end. So both of those function as distractions, knockbacks, kites. Those two together are nasty, and this seems like the best deck in terms of combining those two on defense.
Yeah, and they essentially both have shields, right? The Goblin Cage inside of his cage, and then the shield on the Royal Delivery. So very difficult for a mini P.E.K.K.A. to be effective.
Let's go ahead and jump into game number 2. Pedro with the advantage over Igor. Match point for Cream Real Betis.
Wow.
Can they get it done here?
I did not think you were going to be saying that halfway through the 1v1 set, but this is the moment for Igor to show everyone exactly what he did at World Finals. World Finals, he was 5-1. He looked unstoppable. The other side of it, though, Pedro, he's got a 63% win rate in the 1v1 over his career. So a guy that clearly is very, very good in that head-to-head set. And Igor is a guy that we haven't seen much of in the regular season. We've only seen him play 6 matches in CRL in total.
5-1, of course, over those matches, going back to our Clash Royale League World Finals, where he opened up his professional campaign with a clean 3-0 sweep against OGN Entis, following that with a 2-0 over Javi Catorze, all on the biggest stage in front of the biggest crowd he'd ever seen, and it was a brilliant performance. So far here, though, struggling against Pedro, who looks like he's going with a variation of the same deck, switching in the Musketeer for the Firecracker. Very interesting choice here.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Igor might be having some nightmare flashbacks in this moment. He needs a better way to keep that Royal Giant at bay. He doesn't have a lot of single target DPS, especially when that Earthquake comes down and slows those goblins, which is something that will be repaired in the update. But as of right now, he is having a lot of trouble. And again, it comes down to that single target DPS.
Minor log this time, so good spell value so far, although this Heal Spirit will survive and buff up that Royal Giant.
Allows the Royal Giant to get, what, 2 hits?
There we go.
2 big hits.
Entering the final minute of regulation play, it is Pedro ahead by around 600, 601 to be precise. Musketeer takes care of the Mega Minion as we enter double Elixir.
And the other part about this is that 601, that 600 becomes a lot harder to make up when the majority of your damage has come from minor chip damage.
And that Heal Spirit this time unable to get anything. You see just the delay there from Igor on dropping any troop on the bridge. Still able to stop that Royal Giant. It's because he had that extra delay and didn't give the Heal Spirit a place to go.
Yeah, it feels almost like you're not playing correctly by allowing these units to have that much time, but you really do not want to play a unit up high so that Heal Spirit connects becomes way more detrimental than what might have happened if you just allowed it to go down, like you saw right there. You saw as soon as the Heal Spirit died, then came in the Goblins. Timing was medium.
No, that Heal Spirit survived. That's why it got a shot. That was wild. And you saw he was trying to hold off as long as he possibly could. The fireball does not take the Musketeer off the board, and so now NATOing it back, but RG is going to finish this off. Oh my word.
Wow.
Did anyone bet this one? Did you get your fantasy lineup right? Oh my word.
I did not, and oh man, that was crazy. Look at that, a match win for Cream to start their season against the world champions. What a way to start your season. They have got to be flying high right now, and oh man, I don't think anyone expected this. I don't even know if Cream expected this.
Yeah, this is absolutely wild. I mean, this is the level that Pedro can play at, and of course, great work by the analysts of Cream Real Betis to put together some good deck choices. And the switching the Musketeer in for the Firecracker seems like it ended up being brilliant. It required a lot of elixir to focus on to get it off the board, and often Igor was unable to get it off the board, and that results in an overall match victory for Cream Real Betis.
Yeah, and this is kind of what I was talking about, was the timing he was trying to execute, and you were saying he didn't land. Exactly, that was the moment that we saw right before this, was just the Goblins came in a second too early. The Heal Spirit connects, it keeps that Royal Giant alive, and then allows this next push to come in for an easy game win. Igor was so close on his timing. He almost got it just in time, but those Goblins being dropped just early enough. It's a catch-22, right? You pick your own poison. Do I let the Royal Giant connect, or do I let the Heal Spirit go off? One of the two. Either way, I lose the game. Wow, Pedro.
Yeah, that was brutal, and this makes some interesting situations for Team Liquid, because this was one of the wins they probably counted on coming into this one.
Yeah,
they still have to face Chivas and Tribe. Now, I honestly, at this point, after seeing Cream today, I think I move Cream Real Betis above Chivas in terms of my power rankings until we see what they can and can't get done in 2v2. Of course, Anaban is an absolute wild card and can wipe any team by himself, but you got to get him there, of course. But they still have Chivas and they still have Tribe. Neither one of those are matches that I would count on for victories.
Well, this is the thing, is like, you look at what happened today, and SK has the same matchup in Misfits. There are two squads in Cream and Misfits that I think have an incredibly high ceiling. And I don't think the floor is that low. And you saw right now just how high that ceiling is for Cream. They put Liquid out to bed. They took him out behind the farm and put him down. It was unbelievable, the work they put in today. I did not expect it, and I'm so happy to see how well they played.
Yeah, Andrew, you might say they told Liquid to look at the flowers, and ended up pulling that one all the way through. And now for Cream, this is huge, because their two biggest opponents in terms of Liquid and Tribe, one down, one to go. And looking at this one, we have to play the match, of course. I think I give Cream a significant advantage over Dignitas. This might be the match win that guarantees Cream has a spot in that top three.
I couldn't agree more. Let's go to our second match of the day. SK Gaming, our CRL West champions, going up against a brand new Misfits roster.
We'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome back. Hope you grabbed your soda and popcorn after the big upset we just saw. We have another match coming up right now that is pretty much cut from the same cloth. A defending champion, this time the defending Western champion, up against a newly formed roster that seems like they have really, really high potential. Andrew, after what we just saw with SK and Misfits on the board right now, what are you thinking?
I don't know. What is up? Where is down? I have no idea. That was such a great match. And like you said, and like I said before we started, Cream and Misfits are two squads that you and I think have a ton of potential. You and I both believe that Razor is probably the most underrated player in all of CRL. So why not today? Why not right now against SK Gaming, the defending champions of CRL West? And you know, Misfits was picked 4th. That's 7th place. They got a chip on their shoulder today. They want to prove their worth.
Yeah, I mean, talking about what we just saw, Yorai with the 2v2, a sort of a reinvention, maybe, a little bit like we saw from Azili's back in the spring. Over on this side, the big question is who goes 2v2 with Razor. This is it, SK Gaming against Misfits, and this is a huge one here. We just saw that anyone can lose to anyone on any day, and SK Gaming might be the defending Western champions. They might have the defending ladder #1, but Misfits has some huge heavy hitters, Andrew.
So SK Gaming coming out today. I don't know if you saw their incredible animation. I'd watch that show, but here we go. Javi Catorce, Morton, Sergio Ramos, and OP Sam. And if you guys haven't been following along on Twitter, Morton and Sam just moved in together for the remainder of CRL West, looking to improve their 2v2 and team chemistry. So I can't imagine we'll see anyone else coming out for SK today in that first set. I'm so excited to see what the Germans have in 2v2.
Being in the same house for 2v2 certainly could be a big boost for that team. Of course, we'll see what they can do up against whatever comes out for Misfits in 2v2. You have Air Surfer, Dip, Razor, and Wings, and you said it before, Andrew. Razor, in both of our opinions, the most underrated player in all of CRL. Let's put some numbers on that. Tied for 2nd in total career game wins in CRL. Tied for 2nd in King of the Hill sweeps at 4. Tied for 3rd in career set wins at 21. And 7th overall in win rate at 60%. And then you add in the talent of Air Surfer, one of the best online players in the game, playing online for this season, Wings and his King of the Hill skill, and then Dip's analysis. You put all that together, and this could be another upset-minded squad, just like we saw from Cream Real Betis.
Yeah, and honestly, the energy behind the team is so great. I love every one of those dudes. I'm so happy to see this new roster. Here we go. It's Trainer Dip, now just Dip, being paired up with Razor, who, I mean, you just said it, he's a guy in almost every single set, but 2v2 is where he made his name. On the other side of it, the Germans, Morton and Sam, ready to go for SK Gaming. A double NATO ban, so I can't imagine that Giant Skeleton will not be making an appearance in this 2v2 set.
Yeah, double NATO. Certainly we'll see some Giant Skeleton for sure. And it's always interesting that even with the rework, build as a nerf, some people see it as more of a rework, still thought of overall as a big shift and still critical when it comes to 2v2. And here we go, joining our game. Razor and Dip, top of your screen. Bottom of your screen, Morton and Sam for the opening set in Group B.
And two cards that got a little bit of love from the last update. The Skelly Barrel meets the Goblin Cage. Oh, I'm excited for this one. Heal Spirit coming out as well.
Take a pretty solid roll right in the middle of the 2v2 meta. Early on, our first time seeing 2v2 played at this level. As you might remember, the No Tilt League Special Edition didn't include 2v2. Go ahead, Andrew.
I was just going to say, I love that miner to the back, turns the E-Wiz around, turns the Giant Skeleton around, and keeps the Musketeer alive and away from the Giant Skeleton Death Bomb. That Muskie just went down. That was a beautiful interaction from Sam and Morton. That's exactly what you expect from these two guys.
So a lot of pressure being put on early from Sam and Morton. Goblin Cage not going to be quite as nice as the bomb tower on that balloon defense. This balloon, though, does not get in the death bomb range, and here we go. Graveyard going opposite direction, and a clone mixed in with it for Razor and Dip.
Royal Delivery comes in just a bit early. They get a ton out of the clone, and a zap has to come down on top of it, and just like that, Razor and Dip are up by 1,000 damage based off of a very, very sneaky play.
Yeah, Yeah, really interesting. I mean, we have been seeing Night Witch mixed in with Graveyard a bit in head-to-head play, seeing it mixed in here, and then adding the clone Skelly Barrel combination. Really creative work here out of Misfits so far in this opening game.
I mean, you're taking the best of two decks and combining them to work perfectly in perfect synergy for 2v2, and I don't know, I love it. It's kind of scary. You think about what that clone could do, the double giant skeleton, the double Skelly Barrel, or even just a clone on a graveyard. I don't know, man.
Balloon left-hand side, don't know if Razor and Dip have anything for it. There you go, a defensive freeze, but an offensive freeze takes the Musketeer down. The Goblin Cage does not do enough. That's going to be a drop on the right-hand side. Huge blow in the final 40 seconds of regulation delivered by SK Gaming.
Yeah, I mean, SK Gaming now in the lead, and that was a brilliant play by them. I love it. I love the double freeze coming out. And I had a feeling that Razor and Dip had a freeze as well when you think about their deck. Freeze dirtiness. Let's see if it pays off. Not looking like it right now.
Not going to happen. Tower down right-hand side. I do not know if there's enough time here. There's 13 seconds left. A ton coming down on the right-hand lane. Is it possible they could pull it off? Clone up high. Freeze down low. Graveyard activates King Tower.
Oh my gosh. Oh
this
my
could
gosh.
Get through. Will it do it? Will it?
Oh!
What an amazing comeback from SK Gaming, holding on. It looked like Razor and Dip had that one. And then one brilliant sequence on the right-hand side. The trickeration does not pay off for Misfits, and they lose game one in their opening match.
Well, Morten and Sam made Razor and Dip play their game. They were losing the battle on the left-hand side. They were behind in their interactions, whether it was by cycle or elixir. So what do? They go aggressive in the right, and then, you know, Misfits is like, all right, cool, we'll defend on the right, and then maybe we'll support. All of a sudden, they run out of time. Balloon sneaks through, and then you see that massive assault coming at the end. But Sam and Morten doing a great job of controlling the tempo throughout that game.
And that's a big word there, Andrew. Tempo. The way that they actually pushed the pace early, fell behind, and then decided when to push the pace correctly. And this was that tower take on the right-hand side, where you had the freeze come in on the defensive side and on the offensive side, and we'd seen that sequence one before, put it within danger range, and there you have SK Gaming taking a tower, taking game number one, and Razor and Dip, you know, looking like they maybe gave over control, not just of the tempo, but of the overall, of the placement of where the game was played as well.
Yeah, you know, I mean, those balloon pushes don't need to be as supported as those massive graveyard pushes or the big pushes you want to come across the river and then clone. So Morten and Sam doing a great job recognizing that as soon as they could. They readjusted, and I mean, that's why they're some of the best 2v2 players in the entire world. It looked like they were in a ton of trouble early on and able to turn things back around. It was just brilliant. Brilliant!
Well, there were two difficult things to look at from the Misfits side, right? One is the clone never really got any value at any point in the game. And you're taking away a defensive spell slot there, maybe a snowball, something that could knock back or stun or deal with that balloon, maybe even a building spot as well. And then you saw also they spent a lot of elixir on that defensive freeze, then got the Goblin Cage back in cycle, and still gave up a balloon hit from all of that. So you got to wonder here if the clone, you see what you're going for there, but I don't think that little bit of trickery really was the right move in this opening game.
Yeah, I mean, you needed to pay off very, very massively the first time you use it, and it just didn't work out.
So here we go, game number 2, SK Gaming in the lead up 1 in our opening set.
Really, really nice, patient plays by Sam and Morten, and I know you expect nothing less from these two guys. Razor and Dip, though, should not be feeling that bad about game number 1. We've all had those moments when you're leading against a balloon deck, and all of a sudden they go opposite and take a tower. So if I was Razor and Dip, I would not be too discouraged at this moment. They were off to a very good start, and it looked like they had Sam and Morten's number.
Let's go.
Nice King Tower activation there, using the snowball on the Goblin Barrel, so that could change some of the math. with a King Tower activation this early with that healthy of Princess Towers up against against this double bait variation.
Yeah, the bait part is huge. You know, I guess the only other deck that it affects in a more negative way is probably Graveyard, but bait, you need to be able to get those goblins on the tower, and otherwise, just that swarm DPS. You don't want the King Tower helping out with all your little units when they cross the river.
Hog opposite direction, barrel to the left-hand lane. Goblin Cage delivery, that's a lot spent defensively. Spending 7 on 4 on the right-hand side. Yes, you get the counter push, but maybe falling behind a bit here as SK in the opening moments.
Yeah, and you see right there, Razor and Dip knowing they've got this defense locked down, so they go Giant Skeleton in the back, and they're trying to create a big push on the left-hand side. They've got 14 Elixir to spend right now, and a Giant Skeleton on the board. What are they going to do with it?
Right-hand side.
They're going to defend
that Skelly Barrel high. Yeah.
Oh, and there you go. A nice
Magic Archer value. So this going back to something we've seen a bit more of, Andrew, doing the Giant Skeleton, Lumberjack, Hog Rider combination, although what you're seeing here from Misfits is they're not focusing on trying to put together that 3-part combination, which can be devastating, but also if you try to focus on it too much, you can be overcommitting to one basic idea. So far, nicely played by Misfits. Yeah, really nice log value there against the barrel and the Dark Goblin crossing the river, and yeah, I think you hit all the nails directly on the head. Maybe this is the moment they try to do it. Nope, we're just going to go Giant Skeleton. Plus, there's the Hog Rider. And you see that they were hoping the Hog Rider would go to the outside of the Giant Skeleton. No matter, though, between the Brawler and the EQ makes enough room. This Giant Skeleton not going to get close, but will help clean up some of that counter push. A little bit of damage there on the Mega Knight as we go to the final 25 seconds of regulation time. I'm almost wondering if Misfits maybe made a slight misplay by putting in the Lumberjack instead of the Rage spell. It feels like the Lumberjack isn't really necessary right now. They've got enough single target DPS on the board that the Lumberjack, the necessity of him doing that single target damage on the ground isn't really there, whereas being able to get back around to that Rage is really beneficial for Misfits. Yeah, it's an interesting question. You know, maybe they're also a bit gun-shy on that idea after the clone being kind of ineffective last time, so... Yeah. Who knows about what their decision-making process there. Log does clean up on the right-hand side. Here we are in sudden death overtime, and things fairly close, though. SK Gaming not falling significantly behind, could take the lead here if with an ill-timed snowball. No, 1909 right-hand side to 1844. So nice use of spells there on the left-hand side. Still a lot spent, and Morton and Sam are in a really tough spot right now because they are defending really, really well, and they're definitely still in this game, but they're having a really hard time getting damage on that tower. So now you see the aggressive Princess at the river, really one of the best ways to kind of get a couple hundred damage in, throw your opponent off, make them decide how they want to spend their elixir. It's probably just going to go die on the other side of the map. So tricky princesses, maybe we'll see a little bit more of them. A little spread thin right now, though, it seems, is Misfits. Good damage on both sides from Morton and Sam. You can see a little bit of not full-on juke barrels, but not going with the 3-part surround, going all front, all 3 to the back. Mixing things up as SK Gaming as we enter the final minute of our match. The Mega Knight does not get a leap on the tower, but it does. It didn't. It leaped on top of the Hog, but the Hog was jumping across the river at the same time. That was crazy. Double batch drop. The Hog ends up not really taking damage. Double batch drop on the left-hand side, and we'll see what they have to contend with on the right-hand side. Rail Delivery gets 1 barrel, but not 2. Here we are, final 30 seconds. Hog does not connect left-hand side. It's Misfits up by a few hundred HP. Magic Archer deep, 24 seconds left. Goblin Barrels going both directions, trying to spread them thin. This might work. Caught very nicely by both players from Misfits there. Skeleton Barrel in at the river on the right-hand side. 11:33. Misfits just going for the spell cycle. They're so very close, and they're so okay with the position they're in right now. Morton and Sam doing anything and everything they can on that top right tower. The double barrel, the second barrel connects, but not enough. And there you have it. Misfits evens things up in game number 2. Falling a bit behind and not able to quite spread things out was SK Gaming, and you have to wonder how much effect. You saw those towers down under around 800 HP. How much effect did that early King Tower activation have overall on this game?
I mean, tons, right? It always is going to have an effect anytime that King Tower gets activated. It's so much more difficult to get great damage on that right-hand side that's unmitigated, and the King Tower activation early on against the bait deck maybe is the reason we see Sam and Morton falling here. But the other side of it was great use of their snowballs and logs from Razor and Dip and their Royal Delivery. They did a really good job of making sure they always had spells in their hand ready to respond to the barrels, and then keeping the skeleton barrels at bay. That was the other thing. So they didn't really have to pick and choose when and where to use their spells. They kind of had a great sequence going on throughout that entire game.
And well, there was one great Lumberjack catch earlier on where, you know, we were talking about whether the Lumberjack or the Rage spell was the better idea, but there was one great Lumberjack catch on a Goblin Barrel behind tower. So now you're saving some of those spells for alternative uses as well. So over and over again, it felt like Misfits was just one step ahead of SK in this game.
Yeah, and here we go. SK just going for it on the end of this. You see the double barrel coming in. That log connects with the first, but not the second. And there we go. Bottom left-hand side, the lower tower. Top right, Morton and Sam just not able to do it. And you made a good point early on about maybe trying to switch things up. Double barreling, you know, both sides of the map, maybe make your opponents make mistakes. The only problem is that they never made mistakes. And I'm pretty sure you and I both know, and probably you guys at home, is when you're playing against log bait, or if you're playing with log bait, mistakes are really kind of the key to victory or to a loss. You know, I remember you the other day saying, like, I missed one tricky barrel and that's it, and I lost. That's what you need to happen here. And it just did not happen for Morton and Sam.
Well, part of it was trying to spread them thin as well, and they just couldn't because of the number of spells they had and a couple of really good choices, not to mention that King Tower activation. I mean, think of the difference if they had a log as opposed to snowball for that opening barrel, and the kind of damage that could have been done had that King Tower not been activated on the very first barrel of the game. So a bit of cycle luck, some good choices on spells, and some good choices on other things being used end up with a win for Misfits in game number 2. We're all tied up. Game number 3 set on the line. A big one here for both squads.
Yeah, and so here we see Morton and Sam taking it to the skies. The first time we've seen Lava Hound in CRL 2020. Excited to see how they play it. Lava's been a lot more popular in the meta as of late. Not my favorite card to play against or play, but I do love watching it.
That last win does give Razor sole possession of the career leader in total 2v2 wins, moving to 49 over 3 seasons. He was tied with RF and AC, both at 48, but the difference being Razor with a 61% win rate in this set, RF and AC at 55%.
And Razor and Dip right there playing perfect defense against that push performance.
Delivery will get through, get a couple of shots on the right-hand side.
Yeah, it's always a bummer when you miss a couple of those. Oh my gosh, that giant skeleton is very close, Rich. That is going to be a tower. Whoo, that's a tower hit.
That's a big one, although let's see with very little elixir what Razor and Dip can do here to defend against this Lava Miner push. They do not have much available, and that poison going to take the Musketeer off the board. Tower down right-hand side, so despite a huge connection early on for Misfits, it's SK Gaming with a significant advantage here as we move past the midway point of regulation.
Yeah, I mean, it must have just been an overspend straight up there by Misfits, and, you know, they got lucky with that connection to the Giant Skeleton on the tower, but didn't leave anything in the tank for defense, and I think the only thing they could have done a little bit better was make sure that Royal Delivery hit a couple more units, but either way, I think they probably lose the tower. The Royal Delivery just came out right before the Lava Hound popped, but yeah, that was a tough one for them.
And here's what I think they're going to do, is they're going to keep on trying to play the game on the left-hand side and occasionally send a hog on the right and hope they can get one hit out of 2 different hogs. There you go. That's what they needed. Now it's spellable. This hog should finish it off, and now we're in a 2-tower game. Yeah,
only 8 elixir spent, one after the other. Pretty good value there, and you got to think, if you look at the top of your screen here, nothing really touches the tower, and they have a very, very nice counter push with 4 units coming down the lane.
Although that poison going to do a lot of work on the Musketeer and the Magic Archer. This Giant Skeleton not going to get to tower this time and not going to get much value in stopping the counter push.
Musketeer plus Bat's going to be more than enough here, and another Giant Skeleton comes down for Misfits.
Here we enter into sudden death overtime. Currently, it's SK Gaming with the lead, although that EQ going to help this hog get through. Does not get a shot courtesy of the Goblin Brawl.
Wow.
And here we go.
Great cleanup there from that Giant Skeleton bomb.
Talking about that all-time wins list, Morton currently has sole possession of 4th at 44 total wins lifetime in his CRL career in 2v2.
And Morton and Sam just having a very difficult time defending and being able to keep units alive for their counter push. That's the thing with Lava Hound is your win condition. You need to be able to support your lava, but this giant skeleton coming in late is keeping it so nothing crosses the river for the Germans, making it incredibly difficult to get damage on that tower. And as you can see right now, falling behind ever so slightly after every single exchange.
And a really nice EQ there from Misfits. Notice that it popped the Goblin Brawler just at the right time for him to walk into that giant Skelly Bomb. So getting some extra value out of that Skelly Bomb. Very smart heads-up play here. I believe that was Razor playing the EQ.
And Mini P.E.K.K.A. does stay out of the bomb this time. Maybe we see something aggressive in the pocket, but it doesn't seem that that's the way that Morton and Sam want to go. They got to play in the lane to make sure that they're able to defend with their units behind. Just this giant skeleton is such a nuisance.
And this time, Baby Dragon is holding inside that Death Bomb range. Hog not going to get a shot here, but 1274 left-hand side, 1742. Miner on the tower, left-hand lane. Here we go. Final 30 seconds. Can SK Gaming pull one out again against Misfits, or do the Bad Bunnies take the first set of their 2020 campaign?
So here we go. Misfits trying to line things up, not able. 14-14, 1206, Earthquake in, Hog Rider in.
Hog does get a shot, 725. That's absolutely huge. Final 5 seconds.
Yeah, that is massive. Look at that. It's going to be Misfits and Cream 2v2 sets in their favor. Unbelievable over Liquid and SK, our CRL West and World Champions. This is exactly what you and I were talking about. I don't know if we thought it was actually going to happen, but this is the potential of these squads. This is why I'm so excited about CRL West 2020 and these 10 teams.
And with that, Razor is not only the first player to hit 50 wins in 2v2, he's the first player to hit 50 wins in his career in any single set throughout all of the CRL West active rosters.
So look here at the numbers. You know, Morton and Sam, the double Lava Hound, the biggest problem for them was that it was so easy for their opponents to defend or keep everything at bay at the bridge. So those Lava Hounds were completely unsupported when it became a 2-tower game. The best that they ever got was a Lava Hound plus a Miner, and then something coming down the lane with like a sliver of HP. So Razor and Dip doing a beautiful job of cycling giant skeletons. And again, I think if giant skeleton's not banned, you gotta play it.
Let's go ahead and jump into the replay from that last action. You can see the final few seconds, and really it was the EQ, I think, that made the other half of the difference, Andrew. They were able to EQ cycle a lot, make the Goblin Cage less effective, and of course we saw that one time the Brawler went right into the giant skeleton, and just the amount of tower damage it was able to do and the lanes it was able to open, making enough of a gap here that it was sort of you always had SK Gaming fighting from behind against Misfits in this situation, and now here we go into the 1v1, and Misfits has the set advantage.
Yeah, I mean, what a great day for Misfits. You know, what a great way to start their 2v2 season. And honestly, what I saw out of Dip and Razor there was top tier. It really was. They got down, they came back, they fought through adversity. You know, looking at that second game, you know, they played pretty well, but it felt like they'd made some mistakes. And that was when I was like, all right, maybe Morton and Sam, this is where their experience together is really going to come out and kind of give them the edge. But then going into game 3, you talk about the control that came in from that Earthquake. We said tempo for the Germans. Let's talk about control for the Earthquake. You're slowing the troops. You're taking buildings off. You're allowing your opponent's troops to get that giant skeleton death damage that they wouldn't have otherwise. There's just so many great plays there. And I think it's one of the reasons why Earthquake is getting a nerf.
Well, talking a little bit about Trainer Dip now, getting a big time win here, pairing with Razor and 2v2, and now we go into 1v1, and this is an interesting 1v1 set here. KOTH, one of the best to do it in head-to-head play, up against Air Surfer, who's been having a great 2020 so far. Brilliant performances in No Tilt Worlds and the No Tilt League Special Edition. And this is one of those ones where I don't know how if I was a betting man, I don't know who I would pick here.
Well, and that's the crazy thing, because I know you're a man that loves numbers, Rich. So let me just throw a couple your way. KOTH, head-to-head, 2019, Fall, 72%. Spring, 64%. Air Surfer on the other side of it, 38 and 50, respectively.
But the big difference there, Andrew, is that in those situations, Air Surfer was playing in front of a live studio as opposed to playing from the comfort of his own home. And one thing that's been talked out almost ad nauseum at this point is that Air Surfer is one of the best players at home and has been working on nerves publicly. But I think that the current situation, how we're the league this time around, does give Air Surfer a bit of a boost here.
Exactly. And that's what I was hoping that you would bring up, because those numbers do not do due diligence for Air Surfer's skill level. They do not paint the correct picture for how talented he is as a CRL star.
So here we go. Double bait for Air Surfer. Might be going to the skies here for Javi.
Yeah, nice high tombstone there. Mitigate a good amount of damage from that barrel, or excuse me, from that Dark Goblin. Barrel comes in, Zap comes down, and yeah, I have to agree. It does feel like he's going to be taken to the skies.
And now what's he going to do for the Skeleton Barrel on the opposite side? Zap not in cycle. And has to spend barbs.
Have to come down. That's an unfortunate drop there for Javi.
So cycle maybe not where he wants it to be at the moment. Javi would certainly rather play Zap on the Skelly Barrel and put something else on the on those goblins. So we'll see if he can get that repaired as we move past the midway point of regulation. And he might just be choosing to load up on that right-hand lane and not really worry about that tower.
Yeah, and he needs to eat that damage. Air Surfer did a great job of putting him in a horrible position in that last exchange. It was like, you know, how are you going to stop the Skelly Barrel? How are you going to stop the Knight? You got to pick one, and the Knight obviously is going towards the weaker tower, so that's what he did. But now you see here, 1638 and 910. If this does become a two-tower game, Air Surfer's got a nice lead.
And the rocket comes out. Balloon doing absolutely nothing there. This looks like it's going to be a rough one for Javi in our first game of 1v1.
And the late Zap comes down for Javi, misses the minions, or doesn't allow the minions to do what he was expecting them to do. He thought the Dark Goblin was going to stay alive. He zaps. Dark Goblin dies anyway. Minions don't go. 2 elixir wasted. No support on the Lava Hound push.
Here we go. Final 40 seconds of regulation. Air Surfer been doing a good job of keeping his opponent spread thin. Of course, having no real excellent answer to the Goblin Barrel, certainly a huge part of that one. You can see Zap not going to prevent a lot of that damage here. And now a bomb tower on top of it for Air Surfer.
Yeah,
everything going wrong for Javi.
Tower. Yeah. A rocket in hand. He's got the elixir for it. He's got a Dark Goblin to help in the air too. There's just so much about this that is not working out for SK Gaming.
And a nice little Knight there to bring those Barbarians into bomb tower range as well. So sharp play here. Tower does not fall on the right-hand side, but Air Surfer can log that off. GG, well played. And again, here we are with the underdog having match point in 1v1.
That was a very, very tough game for Javi KOTH. I mean, he was just not able to put anything together at all, and Air Surfer really had his number. The way he played the bait, and not only did he have a good matchup, Air Surfer, but he played it perfectly. It's small things like a Knight in one lane and a Skelly Barrel early on. When you recognize your opponent, you recognize their cycle, and you know that that's putting them in a very, very uncomfortable position. What do? I go minions on the Knight. The Knight still gets a couple hits. It's an even trade, but on the other side, I have to make a -2 trade, and my best response on the ground is now out of cycle. It was just so beautiful by Air Surfer.
Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the action from that opening game of 1v1. And again, it was all Air Surfer all the way through. And as we get right to the end here, you saw he had perfect control, easily able to get himself back around to a second log, play defense, and really, Andrew, there was just about nothing that Javi could do about this one.
Well, you know, that I guess your cycle being off that early on in that sense, the best way for him to stop the Goblin Barrel and I guess go to counter push is with the barbs, right? But the moment that you have to use the barbs for the Skelly Barrel, and Air Surfer knows that, and he knows what your cycle is and what his cycle is, what's he going to do? He's never going to give you that opportunity. He's always going to make you use your Barbarians on something you don't want to, so you have to zap a Goblin Barrel. We all hate zapping Goblin Barrels.
Oh, it's the absolute worst. And every single Goblin Barrel at that point. And that's the other part of this, was that every single Goblin Barrel meant either damage or a massive overspend on the part of Javi. And that was going to be the case the entire way through. Air Surfer recognized it early, put a lot of pressure on, and that's a big part about bait as well, spreading you thin, keeping pressure on, and forcing you to do things, even if they're not mistakes, things you don't want to do. And that's what Air Surfer did very, very well here.
And this might just be like maybe a total Captain Obvious statement for me, but it's those types of moves and interactions that you don't have the luxury of making when you have that pressure of live stage. If he's sitting back, chilling, doing what he does every day and he's been doing for years, then that's why he's able to make those heads-up plays. That's why he's able to show why he's as good as everyone believes he truly is. It's so much tougher to make those on-the-fly decisions.
That's one of the things that makes this team very, very dangerous. Here we go. Match point for Misfits in game 2 of 1v1. Air Surfer top of your screen, going barrel one more time.
Wow.
Ewiz immediate response for Javi at the bottom.
Here we go. So Javi changing things up. Air Surfer may be going with something of the same after that incredible amount of success in game 1. And as of right now, it is looking like that.
Javi is second on the all-time 1v1 set win list for careers over his now 4th season in CRL with 12 sets won in the 1v1 set. The only player ahead of him currently in CRL West didn't get a single one of those set wins in the West. All of them were in CRL Asia. That's TNT, who we'll see tomorrow with Tribe Gaming at 13 set wins.
There we go. Javi going very, very aggressive. Baby Dragon up front and on top of the bomb tower. Royal Giant behind. Brawler helping clean up those skeletons.
And that RG going to do a lot here. So this is a very different situation for Javi, having the Goblin Barrel, obviously, for the Bar Barrel, for the Goblin Barrel. Ewiz so far looking like it might be his best option, depending on what that second spell is, if he has a second spell. For the Skeleton Barrel. Very different situation here in Game 2 for the SK Gaming head-to-head play.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is that maybe he doesn't even want to use his Ewiz on that. He can still Goblin Cage to defend against the Skeleton Barrel. So a lot of great answers, as you said, here for Javi in Game 2. A much more favorable matchup than he saw in Game 1.
And that raged up Brawler might be able to escape to the tower, and it does get a couple of shots in here, and that's a lot. 3 punches down to 935 as we pass into our double elixir time here in just a couple of moments.
And I love that. I love that the Goblin Brawler does more damage now when he gets to the tower. It should, and it's so hard to get him all the way there from cage to tower, but you see right there with that connection how much damage he does and how quickly he does it. Air Surfer now at only 935 HP.
This time, Javi definitely ahead on Elixir and taking advantage of that. Skelly Barrel goes to the right-hand side. We'll see how he chooses to deal with that one. Will he go with the Raged Up? And yes, he does. Rage with the Brawler behind the Royal Giant left-hand side. Ewiz takes care of the Skeletons on the opposite end. I don't know if this RG will get a shot, but a nice lightning at the end, maybe a half step too late there for Javi, but still a significant lead with 20 seconds left.
Yeah, he gets the Dark Goblin with the tower, kind of a bit of fortune favors the bold there moment for Javi as that Dark Goblin comes down last second. And 628 to 1541, Air Surfer in a ton of trouble here in this game. Javi, totally okay to ignore that. We'll see Rocket here at the river from Air Surfer, and now it does feel like he's just delaying the inevitable here in Game 2.
Yeah, here we go. Javi choosing to min-max a bit and build up a significant elixir advantage on the left-hand side by not dealing with that. And of course, the Bar Barrel now can deal with this Goblin Barrel on the right. And this time he chooses to. Also gets value on the Skelly Barrel. So right now, everything going the way of Javi KOTH as we enter into sudden death.
Yeah, he saw the double barrels coming in. He figured the best way to deal with it was like, all right, let's play like he was high this time. We'll get a late Bar Barrel in. Beautifully constructed there by Javi defensively. And, again, Air Surfer still hanging on. 321 remains. Royal Giant should get one hit. No, it does not.
Not quite in lightning range, so a bit more defense to be played here by the SK representative. Throws the Ewiz down behind.
And Lumberjack does get a big swing in. That is very unfortunate for Air Surfer. If he thought he had a chance, now it's completely gone unless he catches 9 lightnings in a row, which, we've seen it happen before.
You see him attempting the lightning block with everything he can, but just waiting for that one is Javi like a cat hanging outside of a mouse's hole. Gets it done. We're going to the third and final game.
Whoo, I love it. This is exactly what I wanted to see in this 1v1 set. Big blows being thrown and landed by both of these stellar superstars. I mean, these guys are superstars at this point. You can say what you want about Air Surfer's record in live competitive play, but what he's done online and what he's done for CRL as a whole is something you cannot deny. Let's take a look here at that win from SK Gaming.
So here we go. I mean, just waiting, trying to block the lightning best you can. Lightning block is certainly a game of cat and mouse, that's for sure. And everything he throws out there, just you can know it. You know, Javi's waiting. He goes, okay, I just have to time this right and not get caught. I know you're gonna have to throw stuff out there, place it correctly, gets it done. No block this time around, and we're going to game number 3. And Andrew, you talk about Air Surfer from a record standpoint, but you know, for those of you who've only watched him in CRL, you don't know a lot about him from what he does outside of CRL. 3-time #1 in the global tournament, 8.4K on ladder, won the Moreno Cup, got second in the Moreno Cup, number 3 in the I Stay Home Cup this season, this year. The guy has a consistent record of performing very, very well, top tier level in online play. And the conversation has always been just about how do you handle those nerves in that live environment? Well, no live environment here, no problem. Let's go. Air Surfer with a chance to close things out again in game number 3 against Javi.
And imagine if he has the spring season of a lifetime and then we go live in the fall. Maybe he's got that confidence from what he did here in this split for him to be like, all right, they're gone now. I'm ready to go on the live stage. I'm ready to win the World Finals.
Well, here we go. It's our final game in the best of 3. Misfits with a chance to close this thing out here in a moment. And if they can't, then this King of the Hill becomes a real interesting conversation, because I honestly don't know which side I would go with in a King of the Hill. If we get there, we'll talk about it. But instead, let's go ahead and jump into game 3. Match point for Misfits. SK with a chance to extend us to the third and final set.
Yeah, you know, it's the same thing that you talked about with Team Liquid early on, with rosters that are this stacked, you know, and Sergio Ramos being the world champion, and SK just in general with the stacked roster just like Liquid. You want to win in 2v2 and 1v1. You don't want to have to go to King of the Hill. You don't want to have to go through Morten and Sam and Javi or swap one of them out for Sergio Ramos. It's just not the position you want to be in.
Well, it's interesting also to look at, you know, we'll talk about the King of the Hill if Javi takes us there, but talking about 1v1, a lot of people were criticizing Javi, especially during No Tilt, with some underwhelming performances. But No Tilt, remember, was a King of the Hill, and then if you get their 1v1 format, Javi can play King of the Hill. There's no question. He has more sweeps than anybody in that third set. But where he really shines is in 1v1. That's where he's really made his name, is in these best of 3 sets. So, you know, I like him a lot in this position, and this is going to be a really interesting final few minutes here in the second set.
Yeah, so here we go. You can see Hog EQ. It's a mirror matchup coming out from both these guys, which I always talk about mirror matchups being my least favorite to play, but some of my absolute favorite to watch. And the reason why is because there's no matchup advantage or disadvantage. It's just straight up mental games and being outplayed by your opponent.
Yeah, I mean, these mirror matches can be really hard depending on the mirror match. Sometimes starting hand is a big determinant. Who can get their cycle down the correct way, and also who knows the mirror match, right? Like, there are certain mirror matches that are very well known, where if you know the quote-unquote trick of that match, you can take it over your opponent if they don't know it. We'll see how this one plays out. Obviously, we have another 1:10 remaining in regulation time.
Yeah, and that's one of the most... I'm really glad that you brought that up, because one of the most famous mirror matchups is 2.9, because so many people have run that on ladder for so many years. The thing about that I learned was just ice golem. All about your ice golem and having that be in cycle. So what is the key to victory in this matchup?
Well, so far it seems like Javi's plan is to spell cycle early, getting a lot of damage. This is a precise mirror matchup with no snowball for Javi, instead going with zap, so a little bit different on that respect. You know, having the knockback for Air Surfer versus the stun for the zap for Javi. But so far it seems like it's been Javi ahead on the spell cycle game, which might end up being the deciding factor.
And again, with the spell of Earthquake still slowing the attack speed of the units inside of it, Javi is getting the most out of every single one of those Earthquakes. You saw right there, the Musketeers battling things out. With that Earthquake coming in, Javi comes out.
So you see now it's Air Surfer starting to catch up and realize that this might be a game all about that spell cycle, to making sure he gets that damage on the tower. Notice in this case, way more concerned about tower damage than he is about the damage on the bomb tower, and that's probably the right call. Now down by just a couple hundred HP, big push coming the opposite direction. Yeah, and you saw the snowball coming in, trying to just get a little bit of chip on the Musketeer, and of course a little on the Princess Tower. 594 to 838. If they continue at this rate, Javi ends up taking the set. What will Air Surfer do to readjust? Yeah, I'm not sure if there is a really great readjustment he can do here, although a nice bit of spell value between the EQ and the log on the left-hand side. Now it's going to be Javi's turn to fire back, and that snowball having to go at the bridge rather than on tower might be a big effect. Here we go. Final 90 seconds of sudden death overtime. Hog getting blocked, does not get a shot, 334, and now can he get a return? Second bomb tower down, and it's looking like it's going to be Javi sending us to the King of the Hill set. Yeah, that's the other thing about this. You know, Air Surfer missing those hits on the Earthquake for the bomb tower allows that bomb tower to just play a little bit more defense for Javi KOTH, which again, widens that gap just a little bit more. You know, again, it's a mirror matchup. You got to just outplay your opponents, and that's exactly what every single one of those things do. If you have a bomb tower that survives and even just distracts the Hog, reroutes the Hog, or gets one bomb, that is all you need out of it. And that's what you got to do all throughout a mirror matchup. So there you go, Javi KOTH evening things up. We're going to go to the third and final set. First, let's go ahead and take a look at the replay. And this was the finish, and the story was all about that spell cycle. This was a whole lot of defense. Don't make mistakes against the Hog. And Javi, once he got ahead, there was really not much that could be done on Air Surfer's side of things. And now Javi adds a 13th set victory, tied for most set victories over his career in CRL West. So guys, here we go. We're going to our very, very first King of the Hill. And if you guys don't know what that is, each player gets three, or each squad, dang it, I was so excited. I was so excited to say it. Each squad gets 3 players. Each player has just 1 life, and the first squad to eliminate the other 3 is the victor. And do you think this is the same 70-30 situation that we found Liquid in earlier today? Or do you think that Misfits has a better chance, or at least a better starting chance than you would see on paper? I don't know. That's a really interesting question. You know, the one wild card here, obviously, we know Razor's level, who was one of the top players overall and really, really high level in King of the Hill. We know Air Surfer and what he's done in King of the Hill, especially here in 2020. The wild card here for me is Wings, who historically has been great in 1v1 or in King of the Hill, but lately has not been up to the same level as he was earlier in his career, going in 7-8 last season in the King of the Hill set. So I think that's the big question. If Wings can show up, this becomes kind of a toss-up, 55-45 at most difference. If Wings doesn't show up, we start to, in my opinion, go 60-40 towards SK, maybe even more. Yeah, I'm wondering if that's the curse of the casters, and if it is, Wings, I'm so sorry, because we talked about how great you were in King of the Hill for so long, and it's because you were. You were 79% in Season 1. You were 67 in the spring split. Like, you were a person that when you bring into King of the Hill, you can expect to win 3 out of 5. You know, like, that's the way that you'd play. Or even 3.5 out of 5. But now, as Rich talked about in that last season, dropping all the way down to 47%, I do believe you're correct in saying he's kind of the it factor or the X factor here for Misfits. I mean, the other half of that question is, what does SK bring out? Are they going to come out with Morten, Sam, and Javi KOTH as their 3, or do they mix Sergio Ramos in here? Of course, Morten's great in this set. Sam's on a tear right now, playing some of his best Clash Royale of his life. And Javi KOTH, more sweeps in King of the Hill than anybody currently on an active roster in CRL West at 5 overall King of the Hill sweeps in regular season play. Do they go with that roster, or do they mix Sergio Ramos in here? And that's another important question as we go into this King of the Hill. Yeah, I mean, it's so tough, right? Because we saw what Morten did at World Finals. You watch what he does in the offseason, but then when he comes out today, you're like, he still needs to play 2v2. So King of the Hill is going to be the moment here, and you see right now, Morten is going to be the closer. So we got OP Sam starting things off for SK. Then it's going to be Javi KOTH in the middle. Morten closing things out. As you guys know, he is a guy that performs incredibly well under very high pressure situations. And then Rich, here we go. Wings, the man that has kind of built a name for himself in King of the Hill, kicking things off, followed by Razor, and then Air Surfer, who played very well in that second set. But Javi, just doing what Javi does. Yeah, very curious about this one with Wings leading off. Of course, Wings, let's not take away from Wings is currently tied for the most King of the Hill game victories overall. 30 game victories in King of the Hill in his career, tied for second at 4 sweeps. So it's really just that the fall season is the only question mark on Wings coming into this King of the Hill set. Other than that, talking about the first 2 seasons, this is where he shines. So the big question now is, does he show up in this moment? If he does, things could be really bad, get really bad very, very quickly for SK Gaming.
And that's a very solid point you make, because I don't want to take anything away from the earlier seasons of CRL, but it does feel like the talent gets better and better every year. So is this a moment where the talent is catching up with Wings, or was it just a little bit of an off spot or an off season for Wings?
That's a question certainly we're going to have answered fairly soon. Let's go ahead and jump in to our first game of King of the Hill. Wings, top of your screen, OP Sam at the bottom, and Sam certainly feeling it overall right now. Of course, coming off that brilliant season, getting #1 on ladder, and right now, if you're buying stock, everyone's been buying high on Sam right now.
I mean, you and I have loved Sam since the first time we ever saw him. He struggled a little bit when he kind of moved into head-to-head play over the last couple seasons, or not even the last couple. It was really just the spring season where he took a big regression, but then he came back in the fall. He only played in King of the Hill, but he was still at 64%. So, I mean, overall in his career in head-to-head, he's at 66%, which is a guy that I would field on any roster.
Yeah, I mean, anything over 55% is pretty solid and at the level of competition, so being over 60 is insane. Easy King Tower activation there.
Beautiful King Tower activation there. Does not get a swing on the tower, and that's one of the beautiful things of the new Tornado. When timed correctly and placed correctly, you get that King Tower activation with no damage dealt.
So a lot of spell cycle early from Wings in this one, and we saw that, of course, in the mirror match early on. Wings now with that King Tower activation. Happy to go ahead and just get some of those done as he's at 10 consistently right now. As we go into the midway point of regulation time, currently has the lead by about 200 HP.
So both these guys playing very patiently. Sam going to drop that lightning in there. One of the more frustrating plays to happen when you think you got a defense in and then a lightning comes down. However, though, Wings doing a good job recognizing there wasn't a ton of DPS behind that lightning and goes opposite lane.
Takes the hog off. OP Sam resetting now. Here we go into double elixir time. This might be when the German starts to kick things into high gear. 8.4K personal best on ladder. 8402 to be precise for the mad scientist OP Sam.
And I'm curious if Wings got enough out of that single elixir time. We'll see right now.
That's gonna be a very, very big question. It looks like setting up on the right-hand side is OP Sam.
There's just so many responses for Sam to the win conditions. That's why you saw him cycle that Goblin Cage early, was to make sure that he couldn't support the Hog Rider with the EQ. So he goes Goblin Cage, baits out the EQ, then the Hog Rider comes down, and Sam's kind of dealing with things in the sequence that he would like rather than what the Wings would like.
Does finally get Golem down, and a well-timed one does distract the Musketeer. Night Witch behind.
And well-timed as well, because it's taking for all the bats. The first two get behind the Golem, just to add a little bit more DPS on this bomb tower. Not going to get a lot out of it.
Well, I like the patience there from Sam, not pulling the trigger on the lightning to get the Musketeer off the board, instead knowing that a Hog Rider was coming soon, had to play some defense, so here we go. Sudden death overtime. Golem should come up fairly high. No, a lightning there, and there's some solid value. Resetting for defense, maybe one more attempt before that big push.
I mean, honestly, man, if I'm Wings right now, I just do what he's doing right now, which is play good, stout defense, and then get spell cycling in, which is why you see Sam having to go hyper-aggressive with the Golem. So what does Wings do? Hog Rider in response.
That's a couple times now that Sam's done a good job of protecting those support troops by getting the Golem in front of the Musketeer. We'll see if he can stack up enough at the bridge and get something moving downhill. His time is starting to run a little bit short here with only 1:15 remaining, and that Baby Dragon not getting splash damage on tower.
And that was a really, really nice snuck in Knight, if you will, that protected that Musketeer against the Night Witch and the Baby Dragon to allow just a little bit more DPS to come in, so there was not as much support for Sam to come across the river. And now you see the spell cycle coming down, support that hog, 459 to 2094, and no gold on Misfits' side of the map.
And maybe we'll see if Sam can get one more down here, although with that EQ, this will be an easy spell cycle to finish things off. GG, well played. Wing's going to take game number 1 of King of the Hill with some pretty solid spell cycle work. Got ahead enough, played really solid defense, and gets a very important first victory on the season. And this is what we talked about, Andrew. If Wings can come out and get his job done, things start to get very dicey for the defending Western champions.
Yeah, and you know, Sam played very patiently. He waited a very long time till he could find his first opening for the golem to come down, but he had the ability to just put up so much pressure, and that's really what it was all about, was the pressure. Wings would send in a Naked Hog Rider if he saw a golem come down, or he would send in an Earthquake solo to make sure the Goblin Cage was out of the way for the hog to then come in. There was just a very good, I've used this word a lot today, but I think it is really appropriate. It's just the management of the game, controlling the tempo and controlling your opponent's responses. And Sam was just never able to adequately support that golem push until, I guess, maybe that last one, maybe?
And the interesting part about this one, about this matchup, was that King Tower activation early on didn't really become much of a factor. While the hogs did come through, it felt like the hogs were more pressure, and that spell cycle in the long run ended up being the bigger focus for Wings as time went on. So it becomes really frustrating when you're like, I can defend this hog so well, but you can't stop a spell from your tower. You just can't do it. There's no way to make that happen. And there you have it. Wings taking Sam off the board, and now only 2 left for SK Gaming.
And it can be so frustrating when you feel like you have your opponent taken care of, right? But then they just drop a Knight and a Bomb Tower and a Musketeer, and you don't understand how that elixir, that 11 elixir, goes so far, but it really does, and it really did time and time again for Wings. Sam just could not break through. He could not get across the river with those support troops.
Here we go. It's going to be coming up next. Javi 14 for this King of the Hill set, and Javi ranks just behind Wings and Canario on the all-time King of the Hill wins list, although he is ahead of them in one very important category, the lifetime sweeps leader at 5 in regular season play. Here we go. 2 of the best historic in King of the Hill, 2 of the top 3 in King of the Hill, Wings and Javi. Let's go.
Yeah, Javi sitting at a comfortable 68% in King of the Hill over his career, and a massive 72% over his career in all head-to-head play. This is not a guy you ever want to run into in a 1v1 set or in King of the Hill, but if anyone can put up a great fight in this, it's Wings.
And by the way, with that last win, Wings did take sole possession of the career wins leader in King of the Hill at 31, trailing by one is Canario.
So a very aggressive Lightning Mega Minion left lane. So Wings responds with a giant graveyard, but a high Goblin Cage keeps the giant at bay for a beautiful defense and a decent counter push.
First minute away, giant graveyard for Wings gives him a slight lead. We'll see if he chooses to stop. The Brawler does go ahead and throw the Skarmy. You don't see the Skeleton Army in a lot of decks these days, but this is one of them.
Yeah, Skarmy popping up more and more. You'll see it in random giant graveyard decks. You'll see it in random Sparky Goblin Giant bait decks now and then, and even you'll see it in random classic bait decks. So I kind of hate and love the Skarmy, I'll be honest.
Well, it does create some interesting problems, right, Andrew? Because you have to respond to the Skarmy in some way. You can't just let a pile of skeletons go coast to coast and jump onto your tower. And so it means, especially if a small spell is part of your defensive strategy against a graveyard, it can take that out of cycle at inopportune moments.
Yeah, and that's the thing that Wings is going to really be looking for, and something that Javi's going to try to avoid. So you're going to see him using his Baby Dragon and E-Wiz to clean up a lot of splash before just throwing out his cheap spells carelessly.
And a ton of damage on the right-hand side for Wings. Giant going to town. 3 big swings, 742. And Wings right now in a good spot. Can he defend against this RG? And the Skarmy just eats it alive.
That is the best use of the Skarmy. He recognizes the bar barrel is out of cycle. The bar barrel was used on defense just a moment ago by Javi. So what is one of the most frustrating things to drop a high DPS, high HP unit into? A Skarmy. Beautifully played by Wings.
And Mini Kepeka comes out really late at probably the most important moment, getting tons of value, just swinging left, swinging right, down to 166. Wings in a great spot here to pick up game number 2.
Yeah, should be an easy game win for Wings here. He's got arrows, he's got snowball, and he's got a ton of time. So here we go, looking for maybe a little bit of love from the RNG. There are the arrows, there's the snowball. 2 HP remains, and he gets that last little Larry hit in. Wings doing exactly, he's going against the caster curse, and I'm okay with it.
Look, Wings had a downfall split, but as we've been talking about a lot during this overall set, even with that downfall split, he's historically one of the best players ever in King of the Hill. And I mean, we raised the question, does he show up today? So far, 2 down, 2 up, 2 down, not much better than that.
So here we go, let's take a look at a little bit of action from that last game here, and Wings just from the very beginning, other than the very first aggressive giant graveyard that was defended pretty well by Javi and he got a decent counter push from, it has just been all Wings for the entire game. And honestly, for both the games we've seen him playing King of the Hill, spells have played a massive, massive factor in that.
So here we go. It's 1 man remaining. Morton, the last guy on the tower for SK Gaming. And Andrew, just to reset the stage here, we'll see a graphic in a minute for it. Who does he have to beat? He has to beat Wings, Air Surfer, and Razor, all 3 of those guys, to prevent SK Gaming from losing their opening match against what was supposed to be the number 4 seed overall in their region. But much like Cream, Misfits is proving to be much, much better than maybe power rankings would have given them credit for.
Yeah, and let me just give you a little bit of numbers to support this whole Morton theory. He went 2-4 in King of the Hill in his opening season. Since then, 8-4, and then last season, 7-1 at 88%. So if anyone can do it, it's this guy. And again, we saw it at World Finals. We've seen it on his streams. You've seen it online. He is a guy that he thrives under pressure. So this is his moment.
Taking a look at what we've seen so far, 2 down. OP Sam and Javi Catorze both off the board. Wings with a chance to add a 5th career sweep in King of the Hill. This would be a big one and huge to take out the presumptive leader overall in the set. Let's go. Game number 3, King of the Hill.
Look, I think Morton is just as stellar of a star player in CR than anyone else in the world. Definitely top 1%, definitely S tier. Do I ever want to run into Wings, Air Surfer, and Razor in a row in King of the Hill? I would not put that on my worst enemy.
Yeah, that's absolutely brutal. And one more for you who aren't super into the esports side of it, just joining us here today. Wings is also number 2 on the lifetime Grand Challenge 12 wins at 538, up against Morton right now, who's number 5 on that list with 436 total 12-win Grand Challenges.
You know, just a couple million cards won between the 2 of them, not a big deal.
Oh, Morton is number 1 on the cards won list at 1.34 million. So Wings looking like he's going back to the same thing that worked in game number 2. We'll see if he has similar success here. Of course, the poison could change the math on that quite a bit, Andrew.
You see here Morton kind of loading up the left-hand lane, trying to make sure that he just can't play Wings' game. And Wings goes, nope, you can have that baby dragon damage. We're still going to play the game that I want to play.
Mega Knight high defense with the Royal Delivery rather than a poison on this one. Poison maybe was 1 card away, and that's going to be a lot of damage on the right-hand lane.
Look at that Mega Knight not doing what he wants. Musketeer on the tower, tank 4 by the bats. That's going to be towered down. Wings is playing. What deity is he today? King of the Hill or just a CR deity? This is unbelievable.
It's been a great showing for Wings, and now Morton with a huge uphill battle. Only 70 seconds left to try to get a tower back, and I don't know, Andrew. I don't know if it's going to be plausible. And it might be possible, certainly not plausible in this moment.
I mean, you talk about min-maxing, and that was a beautiful instance of that. Baby Dragon 4 Elixir left-hand lane, fine. I know the worst that's going to come out of that is a several hundred damage. I'm going to take your tower and win this set while you're doing that.
And look at this little Skarmy kite here, just to create enough room for the Giant to get in front of the Musketeer. Very nicely played there by Wings. Of course, the Baby Dragon retarget goes to the Muskie rather than to the Giant. So has to reset here, and the GY does come down for Morton.
Wow,
Will this be enough in this moment?
That Musketeer, though, getting so much value. Takes out all the units, supports the Graveyard. Mega Knight down, Hunter down, Musketeer still alive.
That moment with the Skarmy kite was really, really beautiful gameplay from Wings, and it's been solid over and over, and this is going to be it. Wings going to come out, go 1, 2, 3. So here we have it today, folks. The defending world champions down. The defending Western champions down. And that's how we start off our 2020 season. Anyone can beat anyone in this 4-match round robin.
It is the day of the underdog, and my goodness, did Wings show up here in King of the Hill. Let's look at a little bit of action for the last bit, and you were talking just before this about the great kite from the Skarmy, and he did it again at the end of the game with putting the Giant in the pocket and graveyarding the King Tower so that Mega Knight could not go across the river and help the Baby Dragon out. There it is, Rich. That's exactly what you're talking about. Allows the Giant to get in front of the Musketeer. Yes, the Baby Dragon's still there to help take it off the board, but those couple shots from the Muskie really make this Mega Knight and this counter push coming across the lane very, very ineffective, honestly.
Yeah, it's so small but so big at the same time that Mega Knight jumps onto the Muskie. Now suddenly you lose a whole lot of DPS. There's a bigger counter push going the opposite direction. And just that little thing, look, Wings already seemed like he had the game pretty well handled, although we saw how low that left-hand tower got there at the end. So who knows what would have happened if just that tiny little momentary shift that direction hadn't happened and given the Giant the room to step on through. And now you have it, Misfits taking out SK Gaming. And Andrew, we're having sort of the same conversation we had last time where SK Gaming, this was one of those matches you really wanted to get taken care of because now you still have some big, heavy hitters. You have the sort of the X Factor space station coming out, and then you also have to still beat Queso at some point throughout all this.
I mean, look, the two teams that won today were ranked 7th and 8th by power rankings coming in, and they took down number 1 and number 2. Today, May 30th, Saturday, is the day of the underdog. And I'm here for it, man. I am so here for it. Let's go.
Let's take a look at the standings in Group A as they stand so far. And right now you can see in the gold, Cream Real Betis out to an early number 1. Of course, a lot of Clash Royale left to be played, but kind of the shocker there, Team Liquid falling to 0-1. We'll get some more decisions tomorrow when Chivas Esports and Tribe Gaming face off. We'll give you that schedule again a little bit later. And then over on the other side, Andrew, Group B, another surprising place for us to be looking at in our standings here on week 1.
Yeah, I mean, you look here, Misfits up at the front, SK in that second place spot, but they definitely won't be there tomorrow because one of those squads is going to pick up a win, whether it is Space Station or Queso. Pain Game and hanging out there in the middle, but Group B and Group A off to a start that not many would have predicted. You talked about it already before, Fantasy Royale. I can't wait to see how many people change, trade, and drop people through this week.
Make sure you're back here with us tomorrow, 10 a.m. in the West, 1 p.m. in the East, 7 p.m. Central European Summer Time. Tribe Gaming takes on Chivas Esports to open up our morning, and then the defending No Tilt League Special Edition champions, the only ever CRL EU champions, go face-to-face with Space Station Gaming in our second match and final match of the weekend. Man, this was already insane, Andrew. I have no idea what to expect tomorrow after what we saw today.
I mean, I'm pretty sure most everyone in the world expected either SK or Liquid, but most likely both of them to win today. And that didn't happen. And that's what the best thing is about CRL West for me. You see these teams, you see these 10 squads, the names on the squads, the potential on these teams. And this is exactly what I want to see. And I hope it's what you guys wanted to see right here on YouTube. You just heard the times from Rich, but you got to subscribe and you have to turn on the notifications. That way, you know every single time that we go live. Maybe you don't know it's 10 a.m. Maybe you don't know what time it is in Central Eastern Summer Time. Turn on the notifications. Also, follow us on Twitter. Follow us at Esports Royale EN if you want to follow along in English for all the latest CRL competitive news, all the best news in CR, honestly. Follow them and follow Clash Royale. And lastly, I talked about it before, my lineup did not do well today. I don't know how yours did, but mine did horribly. But I still got tomorrow. Fantasy Royale, guys. You got the whole week to make your decisions and make sure those lineups are set by Saturday and Sunday. Obviously, the 4 that you had today are still locked in for tomorrow, but you can drop them starting Monday. And remember, the 4 players with the most crowns, that's who you want on your squad. Did you do better than me?
I think that we both had a pretty big choke city today, Andrew. My pick for MVP on the day, Andrew, has to be Wings. Do you agree?
150%. You took the words out of my mouth.
Guys, this has been an amazing day of Clash Royale League. So excited to be back. We will, of course, see you tomorrow. Same place, same channel. If you're going outside, don't forget your mask, but more importantly, also now sunscreen. It's summer, dude. Don't get burned. I'm Rich Slayton. That's Andrew Guy. We'll see you back here tomorrow.
Bye.